9.3 part 2, I'm going to do in 2 sections. So it's going to be A and B on YouTube. So I'm going to do the first few examples now. Then you guys can work on WebAssign. Then I'll do the second. I think there's like 4 left to do tomorrow. Then you guys can work on WebAssign. I have not made the test yet, so I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I am going to do some multiple choice, some free response, just because if we had all free response, this test would be super long. All right, so what I need from you guys is I need you to remember how a hyperbola equation works. All right, first of all, you need to find the center. We can find the center because the center is equidistant from the vertices and the focus, right? We need to find your A, B, and C. Remember, A is the distance from your center to your vertex. C is the distance from your center to your foci. And then whatever they tell you, if they tell you the transverse axis, that's the major one. Transverse means, ooh, this is the major axis. And then conjugate means the not so major one, so it's the minor. You can look at it that way. But this is A, like 2A here. This would be, I want it right, A. And then this would be B. So if they tell you the transverse axis is 18, you'd say 2A equals 18. If they tell you the conjugate is something, you say 2B equals. That's how you do that. But you guys have to remember which asymptote formula goes with which. I'm going to give you both formulas. I'm going to say hyperbola, here's the formula. Asymptotes, here's the formula. What I'm not telling you is which one's horizontal and which one's vertical. So my suggestion to you is to screenshot it and put it next to every problem you do. And then you kind of remind yourself with every question. Does that make sense? Yeah? All right, let's move along. I'm going to go through the first few. A lot of you came up to ask me questions over the last couple days, and you didn't have a picture drawn. One of the biggest things to do to help you out is to draw a picture so you can kind of look at what you're looking at. If I draw a picture here, my foci is at +3 and -3 along the x-axis, correct? Okay, so right now, you can tell me where the center is. If you don't, and you want to keep plotting points, that's fine. Your vertices are here at -2 and at +2, correct? What do you know about the center in regards to the vertices and the foci? It's in between. It's equidistant. So you know your center here is where? At 0, 0. Perfect. That's important. You also know what kind of a hyperbola you have. Remember, your hyperbolas go through the vertices and they open towards the focus. So what kind of a hyperbola do I have? I have a horizontal. Where's all the major stuff, the important stuff? Is it on the x-axis or the y? So this is a horizontal. Whoops, I can't spell horizontal. So I know the equation I'm going to use is x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared. Whichever axis the hyperbola transverses, wherever all the important stuff is, that's what letter goes first. For a hyperbola, no, it's minus. Ellipse is plus. Mm-hmm.
So for ellipses, the x is always first?
No, the bigger yes, you can always write the x first, and then the a goes with the bigger denominator. Like you can always write it with x first, but a and b will switch for an ellipse. Okay. A squared is not always first. In a hyperbola, it's different. The a and the b are always first and second, but the letters switch depending on which kind it is. Sophia.
Could you repeat? You said the hyperbola, like, it matters for the order of the a?
The a squared is always first. So if it's a horizontal, x squared is first. If it's a vertical, the y squared would be first. But your a value is always... No, horizontal is left and right.
Wait, so those lines are...
Those aren't lines. These are the branches of the hyperbola. Your hyperbola opens towards the focus. Those aren't lines. They're opening towards the x-axis.
Oh, thank you.
All right, guys. So when they told you the foci, how far? What is the foci? That's your C. How far is it from the center to one of your foci? Plus or minus 3. Good. You could just say 3 if you want to. That's fine. What's the other letter that you know? We just wrote C. So what do we know here? A. A is what? Plus or minus 2. A is the distance from the center to the vertices. In order to write your equation, you need A and B. Do we know how to find B? Yes, C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Again, all of these formulas will be given to you. But if you don't know what A represents or what C represents, it doesn't matter. So we have 3 squared equals 2 squared plus B squared. And some of you are like, well, what if I use the -2 or the -3? That's fine. When you square a number, it becomes what? Positive. So you have 9 equals 4 plus B squared. We're going to subtract 4 from both sides. So B squared equals 5. So my B value would be plus or minus square root 5. But do I need to go ahead and find that? No, because what do I need for my formula? B squared. So you have your A value, you have your B squared, you just plug it in. So your formula would be x squared over, my A is 2, so 2 squared is 4, minus y squared over, my B squared is 5, equals 1. So you're always going to be given enough information to find 2 of the letters. You just have to find the third one and then plug it in. But you have to know what they're telling you. Draw the picture and understand, okay, they're telling me that the vertices and the focus are here, so then I know it's a vertical or horizontal or whatever. So we're going to go through that methodically, working these out. All right, so draw a picture. Where are my vertices? Okay, +1 is a vertex, and -1 is a vertex. What do you know about the distance from the center to one of the vertices? It's equidistant. That means your center is where? 0, 0. Perfect. Now, they didn't tell me anything about the foci or anything like that, but I can find the A value. What's your A value? Plus or minus 1, right? Okay, fine. A is center to vertices. Now, think about this, guys. Your hyperbola either opens left and right or up and down. Which way is this one going to open? Why is it left and right? Because the vertices are on the x-axis. You don't have to know the foci. You need to know where something is, whether it's the vertice or the foci. So you know now you're going to start off with x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared equals 1. So I need another letter to find the b. I need to find c, or I got to find b, something, right? I need a little more information. Did they give me a point that this passes through? No, they didn't give me a point. They didn't say a point passing through. What did they tell you? They told me that the asymptote is plus or minus 4x. Why is that helpful to us? What kind of a hyperbola do I have? It's horizontal. What's the equation of the asymptote that's horizontal? Y equals what? B over A. What can I set equal to each other with blue and pink? Look at the blue asymptote and look at the pink one. What can I set equal to each other? What can I set equal to each other?
B over A.
4 over 1 equals B over A. The whole reason they tell you the equation of the asymptote is because that slope in front tells you 2 of the letters. You just have to know whether it's A over B or B over A. Haven't we already discovered, guys, that A was 1?
Yes, so 4.
So what is B? Okay, so B is 4. Do I have anything else I need to try and find? I don't need it, right? Because all I'm doing is writing the equation. So when I write my equation, it's going to be x squared over 1 minus y squared over equals 1. That's it. That's it, that's it, that's it. If you need to find the C, you guys absolutely can, but sometimes you don't have to. You don't have to go over and do any extra crazy work. Sometimes it's just given to you right in front of your face. All right, let's go on to the next one. You guys are doing well. Draw a picture. Draw a picture. They told me my what? So my foci, +5 and? All right, so they told me very important information. First of all, what's the center? It's at 0, 0 because your foci is equidistant. Good. So foci is letter C. How far is it from the center to one of my foci? Plus or minus 5. Perfect. All right. They didn't give me a point or anything that passes through. But what did they give me? They gave me an asymptote. Okay. So y equals plus or minus 3 over 4 x. Now we got to be a little careful here, and I'll show you why. But go ahead. Y equals plus or minus a over b times x, right? Because it's vertical. How do you know it's vertical? Where are your foci? Are they on the y or the x? So you know it's opening upwards and downwards. You don't necessarily have to know where, but you know it's opening that way. All right, how do we feel? We okay? All right, so what can I set equal? 3 over 4 equals what? A over B. Well, what did they just tell us, guys? They told us A and B. So what does A equal? Plus minus 3. And what does B equal? Plus minus 4. Can we write the equation now? Yeah, what am I starting with, x or y? Because it's vertical, so y squared over a squared minus x squared over b squared equals 1. So y squared over, what's your a? Yep, 3 squared, which is 9, good. X squared over 16 equals 1, very good. So don't freak out when they give you the equation of the asymptote. You're like, what am I supposed to do? That slope in front, whether it's at 0, 0 or it's with a point, that slope in front tells you your A and your B. Say it again. Yes, no, that matters. Because think about this is a minus sign, so order matters. Whatever kind of hyperbola you have, if it's vertical, y goes first. If it's horizontal, x goes first. That's why it might be a good thing to write down when you see, oh, it's vertical, it's going up and down. Write that down so you know y comes first. All right, let's go along. You guys doing great. All kinds of different kinds of problems I want you guys to see. What are we dealing with here first? Vertices. I hear y, good. So I have a vertex here at positive 2, and I have it here at negative 2. So tell yourself, what kind of a hyperbola do I have? I know it's vertical because my vertices are on the y. So I know it's vertical. I know I'm going to start off with y squared. That's helpful. All right, if my vertices are up 2 and down 2, what's my center? 0, 0. Good, the origin. Perfect. So what do you know your A value is? Plus or minus 2. Perfect. As soon as you establish where the center is, then you can go, oh, okay, well, how far is it from my vertices? Good to go. Now, what did they tell us? Did they tell us the asymptote so we can say, oh, that slope in front is going to tell us our A and B? They told me a point that it passes through. So what do you think I do with that x and y value, guys? I'm going to plug it in. I'm going to say 5 squared over, my a is 2, so 2 squared, minus negative 2 is the x value they gave me squared, over b squared equals 1. Anytime they give you a point passing, throw it in for x and y. So when we simplify this, it's 25 over 4 minus 4 over b squared equals 1. So now what do I have to do to solve for b? I want to get b squared by itself, so what do I have to do first? I have to subtract what? 25 over 4. Are you guys okay with me going like this? I'm going to change this to 4 over 4. Why? Because when I say minus 25 over 4, minus 25 over 4, I need a common denominator. So we would have had to do it at that step anyways. But this brings us to negative 4 over b squared equals negative 21 over 4, right? So you guys are like, oh my God, she's fractions. Guys, how do you solve when you have a fraction equals a fraction? You cross multiply, okay? We all can do that. So I have negative 21 times b squared equals negative 16. All right. Now what? I'm going to divide by negative 21. Perfect. So I'm left with b squared equals 16 over 21. Do I have to now take the square root and rationalize all that stuff? No, because what do I need for my formula? I need a squared and b squared, which I already have. So this just becomes y squared over, what's my a value? A value is 2, so when I square it, it becomes 4, minus x squared over 16 over 21 equals 1. Now, if you left it like that, I'd take a couple points off, because that's not okay. You will not see an answer like that on a multiple choice test. You will see, and it should be written like this, y squared over 4 minus 21x squared over 16 equals 1. And some of you are like, how did you get that? Well, guys, look, this is just a fraction divided by a fraction, right? So if you keep, change, and then flip, do you see why the 21 goes on top? Okay, so make sure you see that. That's why that happens.
Does that give you like the right answer for WebAssign too?
Yeah. Yeah, WebAssign does not want the fraction in a denominator. Good question, good question.
I'm thinking something. Which one would the answer be?
On a test, I would take this either way, but this one, I would take a point or two off.
Why?
Because you can't have a fraction, it's not considered fully simplified and standard if you have a fraction in a denominator.
Okay.
But if you have a multiple choice, that won't even be an option. So you need to know what it looks like. All right, let's look at the next. I have 2 more and then we're done for today. I want you guys to understand when you are given certain piece of information, what it means. Okay, they told me the x-intercepts. What is an x-intercept? Where the graph does what? Crosses the x-axis. So I have here at positive 3 and here at negative 3, right? Doesn't call it a vertex or anything. It just says this is where the graph goes through. Does that make sense? And then it tells me that my foci is at positive 5 and at negative 5. It's pretty much telling you that's the vertex. Why?
Because that's where the vertex.
If that's where the graph is crossing the axis, don't we understand that the vertex and the foci are always either right above each other or right next to each other on the same plane? So what this is telling you is, oh, hey, this is how it opens, and that's where it crosses. So in a sense, yes, they are telling you here that this is the vertex, but they didn't come right out and say it. But why can you definitively say that? Well, the vertex and the foci are equidistant from the what? Center. So you know this didn't move up, down, left, or right, or anything. It could cross an axis and not be the vertex because your vertex moved. But since this is the center, didn't move left, right, up, down, nowhere, you can say, oh, okay, well, my foci is equidistant. That means so are the vertices, that sort of a thing. But now that we've established all that, we know 2 of the 3 values. What's your A value? Plus or minus 3. What is your C value? Plus or minus 5. Which equation are we going to use? X squared comes first because this is what? Because it's horizontal. Good. Do you see, we found all of that information literally by plotting the points and just thinking a little bit. Now, how would you find the B? Yep, C squared equals A squared plus B squared. So 5 squared equals 3 squared plus B squared. 25 equals 9 plus B squared. So B squared equals 16. Okay. What's B? Plus or minus 4? Do you really need to know that? So let's write our equation. X squared over 9. Where'd I get 9 from? Good. Over 16 equals 1. You guys just really have to practice. My A value is center to vertex. My C value is center to foci. Got to practice that. All right, one more, and then we'll finish up tomorrow. Same type of information they gave us. Okay, let's draw it. I'm not going to put it exactly on the graph because I'm not going to make 15 tick marks, but just notice what I do here. They tell me that a y-intercept is here at positive 9 and a negative 9, right? And they tell me that I have a foci at positive 15 and negative 15.
Whenever we see intercepts, we can just assume
if you're at the center. Because think about it, you could draw something and it goes through the x-axis, but the important thing is to understand this is at the center. Why is it at the center? Because your focus is equidistant, so you know your center's right there. So by figuring that out, you guys now know that these are the intercepts. You know what direction it's vertical. Good. You know your A value is what? Excuse me, your A value plus or minus 9. You know your C value plus or minus 15, right? So let's find B, or B squared. So C squared equals A squared plus B squared. You guys all right with me saying 225? Okay, and then 81. 15 squared is 225. 9 squared is 81. So B squared equals 144 when I subtract. B is plus or minus 12, but we don't need to really worry about that because we just need B squared. So what's going to come first? Since this is an up-down, this is a vertical one, what's going to come first? Perfect, y squared. So y squared over 81 minus x squared over 144 equals 1. Very good. And we're going to do an example or two. There's only 4 more left. There's going to be 1 or 2 that were not at the center. The only thing that changes, instead of it just being x squared and y squared, it's like x minus 2, and then y plus, whatever. But that we'll finish tomorrow. But thank you guys very much.